Thy Will Be Done by Shmuel ben Naftali. Part 1. Lessons Learned Along the Way. Chapter 1. My Own Personal Journey. Section 1. Traditional Condescension Towards Converts. There is an unfortunate tendency by some in the mainstream Jewish community to judge what someone says based on who they are. Imagine this scene. A poor, penniless man goes to an Israeli settlement of Orthodox Jews in the West Bank. He speaks to the settlers there and says, "Be just and fair to the Palestinians. Do not ill-treat ordinary Arabs, and show compassion to Muslims." One settler comes up to him and says, in a slightly mocking tone, "Are you the Messiah?" "No," says the beggar hesitantly. Another settler approaches him and says, "Then, are you Elijah?" Again, the beggar says, "No." A third comes up and asks, "Do you have any academic qualifications?" The beggar hangs his head in embarrassment and says, "No." "Then why are we even talking to you?" exclaim the settlers. "Just shut up and go away." A few weeks later, the settlers find out that the chief rabbi is visiting them. He has heard that they have been launching unprovoked attacks on the local Arabs. When he arrives, he stands among them and says, "Listen to me. This is very important. You must be just and fair to the Palestinians, especially those who are your neighbors. Do not ill-treat ordinary Arabs, and show compassion to Muslims generally." "Yes, Rabbi, we understand. We will try our best." "No," cries the chief rabbi, "you will not just try. You will do this. Otherwise your actions will bode ill for us all." Personally, I have always felt like that beggar. It is rare for a teaching or statement to be judged on its own merit. In Jewish forums on the internet, I will perhaps say something profound that goes against the grain. Immediately I will be asked who I am. Probing questions will then be put to me, and eventually it will come out that I was not born Jewish. Once that information is discovered, the discussion is over. The mere fact that I am a convert is indisputable reason enough to dismiss what I say is irrelevant and incorrect. This is in spite of the biblical teaching that a convert is to be treated as one native born. Section 2. My lack of academic qualifications. I have also recently been the victim of intellectual snobbery and given a dressing down simply because I have no academic training or official qualifications. All my ideas and opinions were dismissed out of hand as irrelevant because I have no university degrees. I was told in no uncertain terms that I had no right to express any opinion on Yeshua's teaching, or to lead religious services, or to engage in theological discussion of any kind because I had no academic credentials. Others have told me that I have no right to teach religion at all because I am unmarried and childless. I feel this is all extremely unfair. Arguments are not being judged on their own merit, but on the credentials and identity of the one who speaks them. In a way, nothing has changed since Yeshua's day. Pharisees believed that there were no more prophets, and therefore would not listen to the prophet Yeshua's warnings about the coming demise of Jerusalem. Their belief that there was no longer such a thing as a prophet led them to the dangerous decision that Yeshua's warnings could safely be ignored. The only person they would listen to was the Messiah, and more specifically, their definition of who the Messiah was. Long ago, I decided that my relationship with God was more important than what human beings thought of me. My personal relationship with the living God of Israel was and is a great source of strength to me. It has provided me with courage and endurance when my own natural inclination is to give up and walk away. My experiences and my own journey have proved that to me. Section 3. My personal history. As a child with Asperger's syndrome, a high-functioning form of autism, I have always found it difficult to verbalize my thoughts. Because of this, some of my school teachers even wondered if I spoke a different language at home, since my English was so stilted. I rarely succeeded in penning whole sentences. When told to write short stories in English class, I seldom managed to write more than 3 or 4 lines, because I found human language such a difficult tool to work with. Even now, I mix singular and plural nouns and verbs, and regularly confuse my verb tenses. It is therefore something of a miracle today that I have succeeded in writing an 800-page book. I put this down to the blessing and tutelage of our Heavenly Father. Let me turn now to the religious aspect of my life. Because of the Portuguese influence on my mother's side of the family, I was raised as a Catholic. However, all through my childhood, I felt that the God whom I actually experienced in my life, the God who comforted me, who taught me new insights, and who made that sacred presence felt in my heart and mind, was not the God I had been taught to believe in. I vehemently defended my faith as a Christian, and completely believed what my Catholic faith required me to believe. But there was this strange dichotomy that I just could not reconcile. The personality and feel of the two divine entities was entirely different. The theoretical personality of the God I was taught, and the authentic living personality of the God I actually experienced. My childhood was not a happy one. I remember it mostly as a time of fear, sadness, and dark depression. I say this not to elicit sympathy from you, my readers, but to give you an example of the power of God. My father was distant but cruel, often beating and whipping me for no evident reason. The bamboo sticks with which he used to beat me frequently splintered into pieces with the ferocity of the beatings. I often felt alone and abandoned, distant from everyone. Most of my childhood at home was spent secluded in my room. School was unfortunately no respite from family life either. Most days I experienced racist bullying from other pupils and was often beaten up by gangs. The school teachers would not believe that such a thing was happening, even though my bruises and torn clothes were undeniable evidence. As a result, recollections of my school years consist solely of fearful and unhappy memories. Friendships in school were rare, and most of the time I felt utterly alone. Given the childhood I had, I should have turned into a nervous, drug-taking, alcoholic wreck. Or I could have become an angry, sociopathic and violent young man. But I didn't. I always felt that this other God, this living, sentient being I couldn't see or touch, was protecting me, guiding me and keeping me from psychological harm. I would even say that this invisible being directed a great deal of genuine love towards me, something I felt was lacking in the majority of my human relationships. This section continues in the next video.